A little over 10 years ago, I was leading a trip with a group of high school students down the Green River in Moab, Utah. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to the Moab, Utah, but it's in the middle of the desert, and the Green River is in the middle of a canyon in the middle of the desert. So it was about 25 high school students, a bunch of leaders, and we're taking canoes down the canyon. And then the first night, we camp on a sandbar that's in the middle of the river. So the river's going around both sides of the sandbar. We, put our canoes about 70 feet off the water and then set up our tents into the sand. And then as we were cooking dinner that night, this huge windstorm came up. It was like dead wind to 30, 40 miles an hour wind. It started blowing, and the next thing you know, the rain started coming down, big thunder and lightning. And so we're in the middle of the desert, in the middle of a river, on the middle of a sandbar, and there's lightning and thunder and rain, and our tents are in the sand. And so they start blowing away. I said to the students, "Get in the tents quick." So they jump in their tents, and the wind's blowing so hard, the tents are beginning to rip, and everything is just getting soaked and wet, and then it just stopped as quickly as it began, and everyone is dirty and wet, and it's just one of these places where we're just kind of decimated in the middle of this, desert basically. And then one of our leaders starts shouting, "Yeah, yeah, check that out!" And we're like, what's happening? And she goes, "Look at that!" And we look, and from canyon wall to canyon wall, there's this huge rainbow. I mean, just a full rainbow, all the colors, and it's magnificent. And she's just like, "God is so good." And we're like, "Woohoo!" This was just amazing. But then at the same time, one of the high school guys walks up and he goes, "What are you guys talking about? God isn't good. He did this to us. All of our stuff is wet and ruined." And this guy was so bitter. It was interesting because it was the exact same event. And some people saw God working, and some didn't. It reminds me of this Sunday as we're coming up to Palm Sunday. Because on Palm Sunday, Jesus is going into Jerusalem, and there are some people who are like, "Yeah, God is so good." And they're excited with palm branches and coats because it says in the Gospel of Luke that they are rejoicing because of the mighty works that they had seen Jesus do. And they were ready to celebrate this coming king. But there were others, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, and they weren't excited. In fact, they told Jesus to tell his disciples to be quiet. And what's so interesting, it's the same event. Some people pay attention and they see God, and some people's attentions are on other things and they don't see God working. In fact, what's interesting is Jesus rejoices with those who rejoice. But the religious leaders, those who were rejecting what was going on, it says that Jesus weeps for them because they don't recognize the time of God's coming. God came to bring them peace, and they wanted peace in a lot of other ways. As you get ready to celebrate Easter, or as you're thinking about what's happening over this next week, I would invite you to pay attention. God might be doing a great work in your life right now. And if you're open, you're ready to look, you're seeing what God's doing, He's going to give you a place of faith. Otherwise, it could be a missed opportunity like the religious leaders had. God wanted to bring them peace, but they were too busy thinking about other things. And what's so great is sometimes when we're at our lowest or life seems at its lowest, that's when God's at his best. Easter's all about that. Jesus is at his lowest point on the cross, and God's doing his greatest work. So I invite you this week to pay attention. Watch and see what God is doing in your life. Don't miss the opportunity, because God will weep if you miss it, but God will rejoice if you find it. So I hope you find his love and his peace this Easter season.